My name is Lena, and I still remember the exact moment my parents slid those papers across the dining table toward me, the way the overhead light reflected off the smooth white pages, the way my mother smiled too quickly, too carefully, like she was afraid the smile might crack if she held it too long. It was a normal evening on the surface, dishes drying on the rack, the low hum of the refrigerator, my father loosening his tie after work, but something underneath it all felt wrong, like a floorboard that bends slightly when you step on it. My mom said it casually, almost cheerfully, as if she were asking me to pass the salt. We just need you to sign this, sweetie. It's nothing serious. Nothing serious. Those words landed heavy in my chest, because in my family, nothing serious was usually code for something that absolutely was. I remember picking up the stack of papers and feeling the weight of them, heavier than they should have been for just a few sheets. They smelled like fresh ink and office air, not like our house. My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, watching me with that unreadable expression he got when he didn't want questions. I asked the obvious thing, "What is it?" And my mom waved her hand dismissively. "Just some paperwork. It's boring, legal stuff. You don't need to worry about it." That was the moment the unease sharpened into something colder. Because my parents had always been strict about honesty, about transparency, about family trust. Or at least, that's what I thought. They handed me a pen. It was my dad's favorite one, the heavy black pen he only used for important documents. My heart started to beat faster, and I felt suddenly very aware of how quiet the house had become. I flipped through the pages instinctively, but my mom reached out and gently tapped the corner. "You don't have to read all that, it's just formal language. We already went over it with the lawyer." The word lawyer echoed in my head. Lawyer for what? For whom? I was 21, still living at home, still trusting that my parents would never put me in a position to hurt myself. And yet, every instinct in my body was screaming that this wasn't normal. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was the small, stubborn part of me that had started to grow over the years, as I noticed little cracks in the stories my parents told. But instead of starting at the top of the page like a good, obedient daughter, I flipped straight to the last page. And instead of reading the dense paragraphs above the signature line, I read the very last sentence first. The sentence that changed everything. The sentence that made my hands go numb and my mouth go dry. This agreement transfers full financial responsibility and liability to the undersigned effective immediately. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The words blurred together and then snapped back into focus, cruelly clear. Full financial responsibility. Liability. Those were not harmless words. Those were words that followed people for years, sometimes decades. I looked up slowly, my parents' faces suddenly unfamiliar, like I was seeing them through a thick pane of glass. "What does this mean?" I asked, my voice sounding too calm, too controlled, like it belonged to someone else. My mom's smile faltered for just a second. My dad uncrossed his arms. "It's just legal language," he said. "It sounds worse than it is." I shook my head. "No, I want you to explain it. What am I taking responsibility for?" Silence stretched across the table. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a car passed. My mother glanced at my father, and in that glance I saw it. Hesitation, calculation, something unspoken. My chest tightened. "Explain it," I said again, louder this time. Finally, my dad sighed, the kind of sigh people use when they're tired of pretending. "It's about the house," he said, "and some debts." Debts. The word landed like a punch. I felt heat rush to my face. What debts? My mom reached across the table, her hand hovering near mine, but she didn't touch me. "We didn't want to worry you," she said softly. "We've been dealing with some financial issues, temporary ones." I flipped back through the pages now, my eyes scanning for numbers, terms, anything concrete, and then I saw it. The amounts, the obligations, the clauses that said the signer, me, would assume responsibility if payments weren't met. "You want me to take on your debt?" I said. Saying it out loud made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. My dad frowned. "It's not like that. It's just a formality. It helps with refinancing. It's temporary." Temporary. Another word that felt like a lie. So why didn't you explain it? I asked. Why didn't you let me read it from the start? My mom's eyes filled with tears, and for a split second, guilt twisted in my stomach. But then she said, because we knew you'd overthink it. Overthink it. As if questioning a document that could legally bind me for years was some kind of flaw. I pushed the papers away from me. My hands were shaking now, and I didn't bother hiding it. I'm not signing this, I said. The room changed instantly. My father's jaw tightened. My mother's tears dried up as quickly as they'd appeared. Lena, my dad said, his voice low, warning. We've done everything for you. We raised you. We gave you a roof over your head. This is family. Families help each other. I stared at him, stunned. Helping is different from trapping, I said. You didn't tell me the truth. My mom stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. We didn't trap you, she snapped. You're being dramatic. The shift was so sudden it almost made me dizzy. One moment she was gentle and emotional, the next she was cold, defensive. I realized then that this wasn't just about money. This was about control. I gathered the papers and stood up, my legs feeling unsteady. I need time, I said. I'm going to have someone else look at this. My dad shook his head. There's no need. It's already been reviewed. By your lawyer, I said. Not mine. That seemed to strike a nerve. If you don't sign, my mom said slowly, it makes things very difficult for us. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something inside me crack. You already made things difficult, I said. You just hoped I wouldn't notice. I went to my room and locked the door, my heart racing like I'd just escaped something dangerous. I spread the papers out on my bed and read every single line, this time from the beginning. And the more I read, the worse it got. This wasn't a simple formality. This was a transfer of risk, of responsibility, of consequences. If anything went wrong, it wouldn't be their credit, their future, their stability on the line. It would be mine. I felt sick. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept replaying moments from my childhood, things I'd brushed off before. The times my parents made decisions for me without asking. The way they discouraged independence while praising obedience. The subtle guilt they used whenever I pushed back. It all connected now in a way I couldn't unsee. In the morning, I called a legal aid office and explained the situation. The woman on the phone listened quietly, then said, You were right not to sign. Her certainty made my eyes burn with unshed tears. This could have followed you for years, she added, possibly longer. When I confronted my parents again, armed with actual information, they didn't apologize. They didn't admit wrongdoing. Instead, they accused me of betrayal, of not trusting them, of choosing strangers over family. My father said, After everything we've done, this is how you repay us? And in that moment, I realized something painful and freeing all at once. Their love had conditions I had never agreed to. I moved out 2 weeks later. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting, no slammed doors, just quiet packing, tense silence, and a sense of grief that sat heavy in my chest. They told relatives their version of the story, that I'd abandoned them, that I'd overreacted, that I was ungrateful. Some people believed them, some didn't. I learned quickly who listened to both sides and who didn't. Months passed, then a year. The distance gave me clarity. I started to see how close I'd come to losing more than money. I could have lost my independence, my future, my ability to choose my own path, all because I'd been taught that obedience was the same as love. Sometimes I think about that last line again, the one I read first, and how instinct saved me when politeness and trust almost didn't. If I had started at the beginning like they expected, if I had let the legal language lull me into complacency, my life would look very different now. I still talk to my parents, but the relationship has changed. There are boundaries now, firm ones. They don't like them, they test them, but I don't budge. Because that night taught me something I carry with me everywhere. Anyone who asks you to sign something without explaining it is asking for your trust without earning it. And trust, once broken, is never as simple as a signature on a page. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not signing, if things would have been easier if I had just gone along with it. I always think back to that moment at the table, the pen in my hand, the last line staring back at me like a warning. And I say no. I don't regret it at all, because the hardest choice I ever made also turned out to be the one that saved me.